Hey y'all, it's Michael. So for the next couple of videos, you're gonna see a lot of reminiscing and you'll see why later on. But for this first video that I'm gonna reminisce on, so roughly around 5 years ago, I made my first booktube video, and looking back at it, wow, I've come really far. First off, we're in full K, we're gloriously 4K, so many things are showing right now. The mic sounds much better, the sound quality is much better. Like that first video, oh my gosh, like the amount of white noise in that video, I was like, embarrassing. I am embarrassed. And also, I wanted to film here because this is the corner of my room and this is where I've shot my first video. Now, my dog's right here with me. So you're gonna see him pop in and pop out because he's sleeping in here because it's cold outside. But just want to let you know, when I started my booktube channel, I really enjoyed it. I love talking about books. I love talking about stories, and I think that's what the main thing was. The one thing that I wanted to do more was actually meet people who love stories as much as I do. And one of the things that I did was actually join a book club, a young adult book club. At the time I was looking through like what kind of book clubs are in my city, and I found this young adult ones, and I was like, oh, that sounds fun. It's ran through the library. Of course I was nervous the first time, but reminiscing back, y'all, usually I would like post pictures and stuff like here, but I don't know if they would want to be on pictures, but so yeah, those people are so nice. I really enjoy the conversations that we have, the talks that we have, and I feel as though like I made some genuine friends out of them, and I really enjoyed it. So today I thought I would talk about, these weren't necessarily like my favorite books from the book club, but I thought these were books that like that I have a connection to with the book club. All right, so let's get this started. The first book I'm gonna talk about is actually an audiobook, and I wanted to include this in here because I wanted to thank Natalie. That's who's the head person of the book club. She actually recommended this to me when I started getting into audiobooks and like trying to learn how to listen properly on audiobooks, and she was like, "Oh, try this audiobook. You might enjoy it." And y'all, this audiobook is wild, and that's Feed by M.T. Anderson. This is one of those experiences, like the audiobook experience of listening to it was phenomenal. This is a young adult futuristic sci-fi type of novel where it's about Titus, and in this future, people there's like chips inside your head, and basically it's like a feed, like kind of like now, and it's so smart, and the commentary that it makes. What about listening to this as an audiobook experience was the commercials. This blew my mind because it's telling a story, but with the feed, it actually has like commercials and like stats and like other things like how you would experience like social media now. And it's so, I was like, whoa, this is so different, and it's so weird, especially if you listen to it with headphones like I was, is because technically you're getting your feed, so it's like, what is going on here? And I love that. I thought it was like such a cool concept, and it's one of those like audiobook experiences that I really remember because the way I experienced it. And thanks, Natalie. I thought that was really cool. So the next one on here that I put on here is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I just wanted to include Neal Shusterman because this is a book I really enjoyed actually. When I read it, I was like, whoa, I really enjoyed this. But it also reminisced back because me and Natalie also talk about like Unwind, his other trilogy, and I just thought, I was like, oh, just this book, I was like, oh man, Neal Shusterman, like growing up, if I were reading him for real, I would have really enjoyed him. Like as a teenage boy, I just would have like consumed a lot of his works. I would have loved it because it's like, what I enjoyed about his works in general is that the concepts of his stories are always so cool. Like they're so cool. Like this one, there's no death, but in like Unwind, when kids get unwind, I was like, that was so cool. But also it has commentary and the way that it relates to like the world now and the layers that it has. I just really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's why I reminisce about it. Yeah, I really like it. The next one that a book that I really enjoyed from the book club was I Crawled Through It by A.S. King. When I was reading it, I was like, I wouldn't say that it was my first because I think I read other surrealists before, but it was just like, wow, like this is a young adult novel, that it was so different. And I just remember me and most of these are just with Natalie, just because she's always there constantly. So I remember a lot of these. It was just like, wow, yeah, that's really cool. So it's really cool. It's a weird story, but I just really enjoyed. I just really enjoyed it. The next one that I have really connection with the book club, but it has nothing to do with the book club at all. But that's Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Wilson. And I don't believe we actually read this for book club, but I have a like connection with it with the book club because I have a vlog like way back where I actually vlog because she was in Auburn. Woodson was actually having a talk and a book signing, and it was like my first time actually like meeting an author. I have like the book here somewhere in this abyss of bookshelves where like she actually signed it. It was like my first like author signing ever since starting BookTube, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. Like meeting Wisdom was so, I was like, oh, it is. And for some odd reason, I don't know why I connected with the book club, but I don't think it didn't even have to do with the book club. See, this is how memory works. It's like jumbling up at this point. But another book on here that I have a connection with the book club is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I think I really connect this with the book club because of the conversation that we had when we talked about this. Because the way the story unfolds, I think it was like just a really good conversation that unfolded from that the story. I don't know, I just have a reminiscing with that, and I thought it was just like really interesting about that. Right, the last three books I have on here, but I would probably consider like favorite books from the book club. Like I really enjoyed these novels. So the first one is Bone Gap by Laura Ruby. Y'all, this was fantastic. I just remember reading this and it was just really great. This is a fabulism type of story, and it involves a lot of things. It's very has a backbone of like from Greek mythology, and it's about the concept of seeing and looking, like the idea of looking versus seeing, and it's just wonderful. I just remember this story, and I just remember I was like gushing about it when we had the discussion, because I was just like, I was like, oh, this is so good. This is one of those books I was like, I really enjoyed. The next one on here is a young adult novel that a lot of people don't talk about nowadays here on BookTube. They used to a while back, and that's Grasshopper Jungle by Andrew Smith. This is the type of book that growing up, like if I were like 15, I would have loved. Like these were the stories that I just was so like, first off, this story is weird. Like it is weird, bizarre, strange, everything. This is about two friends essentially, Austin and Robbie, and it's basically like the end of the world is approaching, and this deals with like being queer, because he's questioning his like sexuality, but then it's also about like the end of the world as these grasshoppers invade the world. Like it's almost like post-apocalyptic. It's about being like from a small town. It's just one of those stories that is so bizarre, and I just love it. It's so strange and weird, and it doesn't get talked enough about on BookTube anymore, unfortunately. But it's one of those stories where I just remember not only the story itself, but also just like what it made me feel, and how I was like, just the relatability of these characters, and just how I saw myself in so much of just like, they were like being stupid and just like being teenagers. I was like, why are y'all so stupid? But I was like, oh my gosh, I would have done, like, y'all, growing up, I was a bad child. Let me tell you now, I was a bad kid. And this reminded me so much of like just all the stupid stuff I would get into, and I think that's probably why I enjoyed the most about reading this novel, is just like the reminiscing part of it. I just like, oh my god, Michael, wow. The final book I have on here that I read from the book club, I think would probably, in my opinion, I would have to say that this book is probably the most impactful that from the book club, and we still to this day because this was a years back, we still talk about it. And that's just because of the subject and the city that we're at, like we're close by. So that's Dime by E.R. Frank. This is a book that on BookTube, on the, like, nobody really talks about. And I don't know why. First off, this book is like a hard subject. This is about child trafficking, and we follow Dime and how basically she is pursued by the pimp, essentially, and it's really hard hitting because she's so young. Like, she is young. And we still talk about this book not only because it has, for me personally, I always bring it up because it's just so, it's such an emotional, impactful read. But also since we live near Atlanta, Atlanta is one of those like notorious cities for trafficking, like child trafficking and like sex trafficking. And so you hear news a lot about it. Like, even if you go to the Atlanta airport, there's like huge billboard signs there that talks about like call this number type of situations. So this book comes up a lot because since we live near Atlanta, we get exposed to it so much. But I think personally for me, like emotionally, this book is so like heartbreaking. I just remember reading it, especially the ending. The ending is incredibly heartbreaking. The decisions that they have to make at the end, it is like, even thinking about it is so gut-wrenching. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I just remember reading this novel, and it's just, I think it's hard to talk about it because it felt so, it's just heartbreaking. That's all I got to say about it. I just remember the discussion that we had, like, because usually the conversations that we have is like very light, very happy-go-lucky type of situation. But whenever we read a hard-hitting book, you could always tell like the mood gets a little bit somber, and it's difficult. And this is one of those books that I think I want more people on BookTube to read. And while it is a difficult subject, and it's hard to read, like, I'm not gonna lie, the ending is what like I think it's what like broke me. This is a book that I'm thankful for the book club, because Natalie just randomly picked it. I believe I forgot how she came across the book, but she picked it because there's an actual official list that we follow, but also like there's a second book that she chooses herself, just so in case you can't get the first book. So like there's always two books. And this is, I think, I forgot how she came across it, but I'm really happy that she did. And I'm so happy that I read it, because it is one of those books that will really stick with me for sure. So if you read any of those books, let me know what you think about it. I would love to hear your thoughts. Or also, if you're in a young adult book, or if you're in a book club, let me know your experience in real life or not. I would love to hear your thoughts. So yes, until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next Vlogmas video. Bye!